Getting what you want for your child's education in Iowa often feels just like a full-time administrative job. The state actually grants families a massive spectrum of options, covering everything from specific special education interventions to complete out-of-district school choice. But there is a catch. These rights are not an automatic shield that protects your student by default. Instead, they are strict procedural tools. You only get the rights that you actively claim, file, and enforce. That creates a practical trade-off for every family, weighing administrative burden against actual influence. Take a passive approach, just reading newsletters, and your ability to shape decisions drops to near zero. High influence is possible, but it requires a serious jump in proactive effort. We are going to map out the exact statutes, deadlines, and rules you need to use based on your family's specific scenario. To get the protections the law promises, you have to be willing to trade a little daily convenience for some meticulous administrative work. This decision tree shows how we figure out which rules apply to your specific situation. We start with your primary educational goal. Let's look first at parents who need critical support and interventions for their child. If that's you, your pathway is governed by federal IDEA requirements and Iowa's Early Access Program. The inputs here are heavy. You have to formally request evaluations, keep track of your annual notices of procedural safeguards, and consistently show up for IEP meetings. Iowa law explicitly requires parents to be a part of this decision-making process. You are not meant to sit back and observe. The goal is highly valuable, securing customized, legally binding educational interventions tailored directly to your child. But the trade-off is that you essentially become a part-time project manager. You're taking on a massive, multi-year record-keeping burden. There is also the very real possibility of entering adversarial, formal dispute resolution processes if you disagree with the district's evaluation. The special education pathway offers the strongest legal protections available, provided you can sustain the high administrative labor required to enforce them. Now, maybe your issue isn't special services. Maybe you just need a better academic or cultural fit outside your current district. That brings us to Iowa Code 282.18, the rulebook for open enrollment. This is a significant option, but it's not granted automatically. You have to submit formal applications to make it happen. That means researching your target districts and, crucially, hitting the state's strict application deadlines. If approved, you successfully move your child into a completely different public school system. But leaving your home district means you lose guaranteed school transportation. Managing the daily commute becomes your responsibility, and the receiving school isn't obligated to say yes. They can legally deny your application if they simply don't have the classroom capacity or program space. Open enrollment is an intense administrative sprint up front. You trade daily logistical convenience for long-term satisfaction with your child's placement. For parents stepping entirely outside the traditional public school setting, there is a third option. Private instruction and homeschooling are governed by Iowa Code Chapters 299 and 299A. The first step is legally defining your approach by selecting a specific category, like competent private instruction. Depending on the category you pick, you'll be on the hook for ongoing requirements, like mandatory annual assessments and filing formal notification paperwork with the state. Doing this gives you absolute total control over your child's daily curriculum, their pacing, and their learning environment. The trade-off is exactly what you'd expect. You completely assume all of the educational labor and the financial costs. You are choosing to forfeit the day-to-day resources, the facilities, and the conveniences that the public school system provides. Achieving maximum educational autonomy means you have to completely replace the state's infrastructure with your own. Finally, we need to look at what happens when you have active disagreements with school decisions, or you need to contest disciplinary and health records. Your rights here rely on federal FERPA rules and Iowa Code 279.78, which guarantee transparency and family involvement. To protect your privacy, you have to file formal written requests to inspect, review, or demand corrections to your student's file. For disputes, you have to work your way through the school's local concern process before you can escalate to state-level administrative appeals. This forces transparency. It allows you to hold the local district accountable directly to the State Board of Education. But aggressively escalating these disputes can severely strain your daily working relationship with the local school staff. More importantly, these appeal procedures are incredibly time-sensitive. In formal disputes, missing a brief administrative appeal window completely invalidates your claim, no matter how unfair the original decision was. This table maps out how these bureaucratic realities align with your personal capacity for effort. Take the parent who is time-poor but dissatisfied with their local school. Front-loading your effort into an open enrollment application yields the best long-term result, requiring very little daily maintenance once it's approved. But a parent advocating for special needs or privacy has a completely different path. You have to commit to the long haul, building permanent habits of keeping written logs and tracking strict deadlines. Because these rules can and do change, always rely on current, official resources from the Iowa Department of Education, not summaries on social media. Which brings us to the ultimate rule of educational advocacy in Iowa. Never accept a verbal no for a consequential decision. Whenever you face pushback, immediately ask for the written policy, the appeal steps, or your procedural safeguards document. Iowa law does view parents as active partners, but the system only respects and responds to those who speak its language of documentation.